So as a property developer, what do you actually do? What are the stages in sequence of a typical property development? From when you first conceive a project to the time you complete the construction of it and sell it, and on to the next stage, which is turning your money over. Well, as a developer, you should always have an exit strategy for each of your stages, and protect yourself. You always need to have open the option to either continue with the project, the development, or have a backup strategy like flipping it on to someone else. Property development is exciting, it's profitable, but it's important that you understand the development process and the fact that it isn't that straightforward. So let's have a quick look at each of the stages. Stage 1, pre-purchase. Here you go and look at a block of land, let's say, with development potential. You could either renovate the property and add value to it, or maybe get planning permission to construct a number of dwellings on it. At this stage, you should already have your finance or your option ready and in place so that you know what your limits are. You should have your team of architects, your other consultants, planning advisors ready to assist you on the project's viability or its feasibility. These should include as well a builder and running things by your solicitor, maybe have a surveyor go around and have a look as well. And I generally talk to 1 or 2 estate agents that I trust, I hasten to add, and find out what the GDV, the gross development value, is likely to be. And that way you can work out your costs and what you like to get out of the development. We then do a full appraisal at the next stage, and we look at various options. So at the moment I'm looking at a site which has 4 flats which I'm buying off one buy-to-let landlord that she's owned for probably about 40 years since they were built. Planning laws have changed now and it's on a big plot, so actually that plot is possibly suitable for 10 or 12 2-bedroom flats, so they could all be knocked down. But at the same token, I might be able to add some flats onto the top or to the side, or I might be able to build a bungalow in the garden, or I might be able to knock the flats down and maybe build 4 houses in the garden, or 2 houses and 2 bungalows. So I've got lots of different options, and that's what I need to appraise at the appraisal stage. So it's understanding what you potentially could get on there, what the council's likely to support from a planning perspective. You need to look around the neighbourhood. You need to check out whether the trees are protected, whether there's great crested newts in the pond in the garden. There's all these different ways of appraising it, and then work out what the build costs are for each option, what the GDV is for each of your options, and then you can come up with what is most likely to be the best way forward for you, based on looking then at what is likely to be acceptable to the planners. And you can do a pre-application rather than a full application to work out whether they're likely to be happy with what you're doing as well, which saves time and money at a later date. Now, if the project's still viable, you want to put your offer in, and that takes us on then to our next step, which is step 3, the purchase. This is the exciting part because you're actually buying something or optioning it, of course, and you're using your feasibility study, your appraisal if you like, to make sure that it is a sound investment, because after all, this is what making money is all about. You've got to get it right. You've got to see things maybe that other people haven't seen. That then moves us on to the next part, which is obviously key, which is the planning. Making sure that we get the right plans drawn up by our architects, we get the right advice by a planning consultant or a town planner, to move it through to the next stage of actually putting the planning application in. Now, a planning application typically takes 3 months, so it might be a month to get all the plans drawn up by your architects and make sure you're happy with them, and get various reports written. For example, it might be surveys you need doing on the topology of the grounds. It'll be probably tree reports as well. So there's all these different reports that are required to go into your planning application, and the planners have to get back to you within a set time with a yes or a no. They very often now work with you and with your architect and tell you if there's a problem with something, i.e. there's a window that's in the wrong position, or the height is too great, or there's too much density. So it gives you the opportunity to amend your plans throughout whereby they hopefully will then accept your proposal. Now, planning is a huge lesson in its own rights, which we'll look at another time, but that just gives you an overview of how it works. And then the next stage is the documentation, which is once we've got our planning, we then need sort of engineering documents, we need building and regulation prior approval. That's what I usually do. We get all these things together, so we're then ready to start building. We bring in a warranty provider as well, such as NHBC or LABC, and they'll want to do an inspection of the site and understand what they are being asked to warranty. We then have pre-construction, which is when we get a couple of quotes in from building firms, or if you can organise it yourself, it'll be all the contractors required, and then you'll put together a plan, a development plan, so that you can manage the construction process. And then you've got the fun bit, the construction process. People ask me how long it takes to build a house. Well, depends on the size of the house, how difficult it is when you get under the ground, whether there's problems. I've had houses built in under 4 months, so a 3-bedroom, 890 square foot house, semi-detached, so a pair of them were built in under 4 months, if that gives you some sort of idea. And that's from start, from putting the fence up around the plot and getting planning permission through until when it was ready to be occupied. Turnkey it's called, which is very good. And the final part, part 8, is the sale. So when we complete the sale. So the first part of the sale is when you get the offer, you accept the offer. You then have queries raised, you have to provide all the right documentation, and then when everyone's happy, you then exchange, and then generally a week or a month later, the completion, when you get the money in your bank account, and you're ready to move on then to invest in your next project. I talk more about the legal process in another lesson. I'll take you all through the different options and how it works. It's quite interesting actually, and it can be quite varied as well, especially with new builds. But I think that's enough on that subject today. So that gives you an overview of the main stages of a property development project.